in automatic mode. So only water separator is running on the manual. The record of the weekly entries to be made in the oil record book. Hanji, kya hal chal? Welcome to the channel Sailors Inside. So guys, in this video we will talk about an important topic, that is oil record book part 1 for the machinery space. So what all things we will study in this video? We will study the all important codes from A to I, all the important points. Then we will study the codes D and E, which are most commonly used on board the ship. Then we will study about the weekly entries. So this is a question asked in the examination, especially in MEO class 4. Then we will study how to rectify the wrong entry, and in the end we will go through how to enter the myth entry. So guys, let's begin.
So let's begin with a brief introduction. So on our ship, only chief engineer is responsible for maintaining and updating, with each page signed by the captain. So all the entries has to be written in the black ball pen. So our ship follows a procedure that we have two books. One is the daily environmental book, which is being maintained by the fourth engineer, and the data from the environmental book is being transferred to the oil record book, and this oil record book is only maintained by chief engineer. These are the actual pages from the oil record book. In case you need for your reference, you can go through them. This is the first page, this is the second page, and this is the last page.
So fatafat we will go through all the codes. So starting with code A, that is ballasting or cleaning of the fuel oil tank. So why we need to clean the fuel oil tank? It can be changing of the grade of the fuel oil. It can be for the inspection by the class or by the flag. It can be for the removal of the sludge and its contaminants. It can be for the maintenance like repair or welding. So secondly, ballasting. Why we need to ballast a fuel oil tank? The main purpose is for maintaining the stability of the ship. And secondly, if the ship is going for dry dock, so we need to take ballast in the fuel oil tank. Secondly, code B, the discharge of dirty ballast or cleaning water from fuel oil tanks. So these all informations we have to record. But the most important is what is the method of discharge. Either it can be through the 15 ppm equipment or either to the reception facilities. So coming to the code C, that is the collection, transfer and disposal of the oil residue. This is an important code from the examination point of view. Many questions were coming that what all are the weekly entries to be made in the oil record book. So it has to be reported in the format of 11.1, that is identity of the tank, 11.2 capacity of the tank in meter cube, and 11.3 that is the total quantity of retention in meter cube. So our ship consists of 8 sludge tanks. So in total there will be 8 minimum entries to be made in the oil record book. It may vary from ship to ship. And addition to this, we are making a voluntary bilge holding tank retention entry. So in total we are making 9 entries, 8 plus 1. So these are the some of the examples. I have taken example of sludge tank 11.1, 11.2, 11.3, and fuel oil drain tank, and similarly like waste oil tank. So in total there will be 8 entries like this, and as I have said, we are making the 9th voluntary entry of the bilge holding tank retention. So till here was 11.123, and in from 1st of January 2011 was introduced 11.4, that is the quantity of residue collected by the manual operation. So here I have shown you an example. You can go through this. So here is the record of the weekly entries to be made in the oil record book on my ship. So first of all, we should know what do you mean by weekly entries. Weekly entries are only to show the quantity retained in the sludge tank, and they are not any actual operation being performed. So what all are the weekly entries? We will consider an example of 16th of June. So other than the weekly entries, we have 2 more operations. that was actually performed on board the ship. So that is the water being evaporated from the incinerator waste oil service tank and the water being evaporated from the incinerator waste oil settling tank. So coming to the weekly entries, so it has to be in the format of code C 11.1, 11.2, 11.3, flush tank, fuel oil drain tank, waste oil tank, fuel oil purifier flush tank, lube oil purifier flush tank, incinerator waste oil service tank, incinerator waste oil settling tank, and main engine scavenge box drain tank. So other than these weekly entries, the chief engineer has a choice to add the voluntary entries. So what all entries he is making? He is making the two entries under the code I. The first entry he is making the weekly inventory of bilge holding tank, that of total of 103 capacity, the retained is 31.53 meter cube. And the second voluntary entry that he is making is that 15 ppm alarm for the oily water separator and the three-way valve operation was tested for the OWS, found in all good condition. So these are all the weekly entries that he is making every Sunday as per our company policy. So code C consists of two parts, part 11 and part 12. Now speaking about the part 12, that is the method of transfer or disposal of the residue, that is the sludge. So when to use this code to be used for the internal transfer of sludge or the disposing the sludge to the reception facilities. So I have shown you some examples. So this is the example for transferring the sludge from the sludge tank to the waste oil tank. You can go through this. This is an example for incineration in the incinerator. Then I have shown you the example of evaporation in the waste oil tank. Then incineration in the boiler. And then lastly I have shown you an example of transferring the sludge to the reception facilities. Coming to the code D, very important guys, that is the non-automatic starting of discharge overboard, transfer or disposal of bilge water which has accumulated in the machinery space. So when you are using code D, that is the manual starting of the bilge pump for pumping the bilges from the engine room bilge wells to the bilge holding tank, or for the manual operation of oily water separator. So here are the few examples. I have shown you the example for pumping the bilge from bilge well to the bilge holding tank. And here you can see the non-automatic transfer of bilges through oily water separator. So guys, here you can see that the oily water separator is running on the manual mode. That is the code D, non-automatic operation of OWS. So what we have to do, we have to prepare the line. We have to open the valve from the bilge holding tank, open all the valves near the oily water separator, open the overboard valve. This is the overboard valve, open the valve, break the seal and record it in code I of oil record book. So the ppm is around 8 ppm. So after preparing the line, how you will start? Put it on the manual mode and manually start. So it will be started, and after finishing pumping to the required level of the bilge holding tank, what we will do? We will manually stop. We will bring in the zero position and it will stop the bilge pump and the system will be stopped. So this entry has to be recorded in the code D, that is non-automatic operation of OWS.
So coming to the code E, that is the automatic starting of discharge overboard, transfer or disposal otherwise of the bilge water which has accumulated in the machinery space. So in the automatic starting, the bilge wells or the bilge holding tanks are required to be fitted with the level sensors, the float sensors, for the automatic starting and stopping of the bilge pump. The bilge pump can be for the engine room bilge pump or the bilge pump for the oily water separator.
So here I have tried to explain you how the code E will work. So this is the example for the bilge valve fitted with the sensors. One sensor will start the pump and another sensor will stop the pump. And this is an example for the code E for bilge holding tank fitted with the sensors for starting the pump and for stopping the pump. So one important thing to keep in mind that whenever we are operating the 15 ppm equipment, that is oily water separator, it can be either under code D or code E. What we need to do, we have to open the overboard valve and we have to break the seal, and this event need to be recorded in the code I of oil record book. So now I will go to the bottom platform for the bit explanation. This is the bilge pump in our ship for pumping out engine room bilges from bilge well to the bilge holding tank. So whenever you want to pump the bilge, prepare the line, and you can only start the pump manually, and after finishing pumping you can stop the pump manually. So this is the reason only code D is applicable in our ship. That is only manual start and manual stop. So code E is not applicable in a ship because there is no automatic mode. In some ships there is automatic mode is available. We can change from manual to auto mode, and in that case with the help of sensors from high level and low sensor we can switch the pump to the auto mode and we can use in automatic mode. Now talking about the oily water separator. Now oily water separator is standby mode, but here you can see oily water separator can be operated in manual mode as well as can be operated in automatic mode. So when you operate in manual mode, you have to prepare the line, you have to open the overboard valve, you have to break the seal, and in that case you have to put the entry in code D. But if you want to use oily water separator in auto mode, if you are sure that the filters are clean and it will not give unnecessary alarms, then you can put in automatic mode, and with the help of level sensors inside the bilge holding tank, the high level sensor and low level sensor. The high level sensor will detect and it will start the bilge pump. This is the bilge pump, and when the level reaches to the low level, it will sense by the low level sensor and it will stop the pump. In that case, in the automatic mode, you have to put the entry in code E. But before that, what you have to do, you have to keep the line ready. You have to open all the valves, open the overboard valve, break the seal for the overboard valve, and for that you have to put the entry for breaking the seal for the overboard valve in code I. So bhai log, if you have watched the video till now, so please subscribe the channel. Let's continue with the code F, that is the condition of the oil filtering equipment. So when to use this code, whenever the 15 ppm equipment OWS is out of service, which may be due to the damaged filters, failure of the alarm monitoring system, failure of the automatic stopping device. Sometimes the surveyor is asking question that your ship is going to the US or Europe ports, so and your OWS is out of service, so how you will report? So you have to tell him that you will report under the code F, and the spare parts need to be ordered as soon as possible in the next port. So coming to the code G, that is the accidental or other exceptional discharge of oil. When you will use this code, if you have a leak, spill or sheen in the water, it must be reported and recorded. So it can be due to the fire or explosion, due to the unplanned release of oil or chemical, or the oil spill during the bunkering. So here I have shown one of the example that one of the fuel oil tank was overflowed and the scrubber plugs was not keeping properly, and it resulted in accidental discharge of oil. Code H, bunkering of the fuel oil or the bulk lubricating oil. So whenever you take a bunker, it can be fuel oil, low sulfur oil, diesel oil, it has to be recorded in the code H of the oil record book. So these are the some of the examples I have shown. So So one of the important point to keep in mind is that if you have the lube oil, the bulk lube oil in the drum, so that entry also has to be made in the oil record book. Here you can see the 2 meter cube of lube oil is in bulk in the form of drums, so it need to be recorded. Coming to the code I, guys, additional operational procedure and general remarks. So when to use this code: in case of debunkering of the fuel oil, in case of breaking of the oily water separator overboard seal and putting it back, weekly voluntary entry of bilge holding tank, or in case of an mid entry. So I have shown you some of the example. The first example for the debunkering of the fuel oil. The second is the breaking of the oily water separator seal, and in case of the weekly bilge holding tank retention, so this entry also be has made under the code I. So the next is how to rectify a wrong entry. So in case of a wrong entry, it should be struck through immediately by a single line such that the wrong entry can still be read. So I have shown you one example. You can go through it and understand. So last but not the least, how to report a miss entry in an oil record book. So in this example, you can see that on 5th of January 2024, Chief Engineer remember that he has missed an entry from 1st of January 2024. So it has to be reported under the code I, that is the entry pertaining to an earlier missed operational entry, and then the missed entry has to be reported. So that's it, guys. This is the end of the video. So if you found something valuable, please subscribe. All the best. Take care.